Ms. Littlewood and Mr. Bailey, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Moving on to GC Pride Awards.
All right. President Patinsky, Vice President Moscato, Superintendent Daly, and the Gage-Tiley Board of Education. My name is Dr. Zanowski. I'm the principal at Walt Disney Elementary School, and I am so proud tonight to award 5 of our Disney Dragons with the GC Pride Award. Now, before I call names, a little bit of a backstory. These 5 dragons have been working overtime this fall. They literally have been doing double the math and double the reading in order to meet some of their academic learning goals. We meet regularly as a team of educators at Walt Disney Elementary. We look at all of the data, we monitor progress, and we have conversations about our kids. These 5 kiddos stood out because every time we meet about them this fall, they have achieved their goal. And what's really cool to the families and to the kids back here is to see the growth in you guys both academically, and I'm noticing an extra pep in your step. I'm noticing pride. I'm noticing that we've got this and we're proud of what we're doing. And just to see that change in you guys this fall, we are so proud of you. So when I call your name, come on up. You're going to get a certificate. Mr. Tavalaris and I have a small gift for you guys, and then we'll go out in the hallway and we'll take a picture, okay? But demonstrating the Spartan way of hard work, these kiddos have excelled in that this fall, and we're so proud of them. So, first up, I have Gabby Ferrari. Aviana Larocque. Andrea Marabella. Briella Shallow. And last but not least, Tatiana Stampley.
Just wait. Take a picture here too. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Agenda changes this evening.
Updates to personnel, sir.
Thank you very much. Moving on to board president comments. Good evening, everyone. As always, when we talk to our students, it's really exciting to hear from them and what's going on with school, what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see improved, what they want to see different in the cafeteria. And to give you a sense of it, I counted. There was 15 adults in that room and 5 students, and they were all at the front of the room, so I imagine it was pretty daunting for them to be there, and your kids rocked it. We had a great interactive conversation, and it's great to see them be themselves and represent themselves with us, so kudos to your kids. So, rumor has it, Ms. Unson, after celebrating 7 years of service with us, is moving on. You are, right? So, 7 years with us and a full career as a teacher. Wanted to thank you for your dedication to our community and to all of your students throughout your career. And wanted just to take a moment to say thank you. And it's been a great opportunity for myself to get to know you over the past 7 years, and I will miss you greatly. Okay, so next up, celebrations. I have a little story for you. For Thanksgiving holiday, I traveled to see my youngest daughter, Rebecca, in Oklahoma. She shared at that time that she was nominated to be a panelist and speaker at the Oklahoma Women for Aviation and Aerospace Day, which is coming up. And in the run-up to that event, she shared with me that they met the panelists and they were asked to reflect and prepare on the upcoming panelist day and reflect on their mentors and their role models that made a difference to them so that they were able to pivot and also thrive in careers that are typically typically non-female in nature, and excel. And she shared with me that she wanted to acknowledge and thank H. Chilai, and specifically Mrs. Smith's her physics teacher, for encouraging her and challenging her to pursue her career in optics when she was looking for what she wanted to do when she grew up. And Mrs. Smith was experimenting with partnership with the University of Rochester and MCC in the optics programs. So, and why I wanted to, I'm double proud of my daughter, and also proud of Gage Chilai and all of the teachers at Gage Chilai for all the hard work that they do, because as teachers, you don't always get to see what your day-to-day interactions with your students are and see the outcomes of those things, both the big days and the small days. And it was just touched my heart across the community spectrum and for my daughter that she has had this opportunity. And I wanted to thank the teachers of Gage Chilai for their innovation and their leaning in, because as teachers, you could teach the book. You don't have to go that extra mile, and the teachers in this district do on a regular basis. So thank you very much. I wanted to share that. And with that, that's the end of board president comments. I have to re-center. Thank you. Points of interest. Katie.
I had the opportunity to spend this afternoon at Brasser, one of our elementary schools, for two things, and it was great to see both of them. One was getting to see our safeties. I forgot the word for a minute. Our safeties, making sure all the kids are getting to the bus safely. Makes sense, right? But just seeing the pride on their faces, and they have a bus board that they've helped create to help keep track of all the buses and have visuals for everyone, and just seeing how much leadership and ownership they take over that role. And the second thing I got to do while I was there today was participate in their after-school Spanish club, which was super cute. It's the end of their first session of clubs, and families were invited to come in, which is a great community connection and family connection as well. And they played games, and they had conversations, and they had food, and they shared all the things they got to do during their 6 or 8 weeks of their club session. So those were both great things to be able to do this afternoon.
Ms. Littlewood.
Okay. I just wanted to thank the boys varsity basketball coach, Teddy Tuggles, and every single coach from all of the boys basketball teams who volunteered the Saturday after Thanksgiving to help coach the junior Spartan team, which is comprised of students from the elementary and middle school level. And also thank you to Dr. Irving and his staff for letting the junior Spartans use the facilities for the practice, because it does help our community members have a lower cost for registration. And this is a huge help, and it's accessible for a lot of our students. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to reported meetings. Mr. Moscato.
Thank you. As part of the Monroe County School Board Association, we had our first advocacy meeting with several representatives from our state legislators. We had 8 reps who were there, and we had 1 Senator Gallivan who showed up on it. It was a Zoom meeting, so we had about 40 people actually in attendance, which is really very good. We touched on state aid. We touched on the issue of teacher shortages, teacher certifications. We talked about electric buses and some of the problems that we are having and anticipating. So it also set up the relationships we know we need when we get closer to budget time. We try to go to Albany in person in March, early March, because by that time the governor's budget is out. The two houses have tried to do some reconciliation. We go and we try to meet not only with our representatives, but also with the same staff people that we just talked to for an hour and a half, if you will, on Monday. So it was a useful meeting. I think for some of these people, it's the first time they've been in front of a school board association and asking questions. And they had a lot of questions themselves, so it gave us information to send back to them. So it was well worth it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, we're going to move on to visitor comments. We do have visitor comments. The Gates-Jolly Central School District Board of Education invites public comment at this time. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We ask that individuals state their name and address prior to comments and utilize the podium microphone to address the board. Although the board will not respond directly to individual comments at this time, items brought to the attention of the board may be taken under consideration for future response or action. In order to comply with the laws related to confidentiality, we ask that issues related to specific school district personnel or students be brought to the attention of the superintendent of schools privately. The board reserves the right to terminate a speaker's comments if his or her comments are in excess of 3 minutes, repetitive, or are not appropriate for discussion in an open public forum. Peggy McGowan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Peggy McGowan. I live on Towpath Trail, and I have a freshman and a junior at the high school. I've heard a lot about safety at Brasser. I've heard a lot about electric school buses. I've heard a lot about the new turf field that's coming in for millions of dollars. What are we doing about the students being able to use the restrooms in the high school? There's bullying. My freshman was told he would get a beat down if he ever came back in the restroom again. My junior reports constant vaping, using dab pens, hanging out, conjugal visits. Why are the restrooms used for those things? Why are the resources of Gates Central being used for toxic athletic fields, green buses that run on coal, and various other items, but we're not letting our children use the bathroom? How is that a thing? Children just should be able to use the bathroom. I had to petition to get my freshman a nurse's room pass, which there was a lot of hoops to go through. But my son should not have a medical emergency because he doesn't have the opportunity to use the restroom. What is being done? Have any of you walked the halls unescorted without any demarcation during passing? Have any of you been in the restrooms during passing? You need the same experience the kids are having, and the kids aren't having a good time. I know parents that pick their kids up at lunch so they can use the restroom. I know female students that have to go home to take care of female business because they can't use the restroom. What about the vandalizing? Bathrooms are closed because students are vandalizing them. What is being done about those things? We're spending millions of dollars for facilities management, for green initiatives. What are we spending for our kids' basic needs? How many of you have heard about the lack of basic needs? How many of you heard about the bullying? How many of you heard about the beat downs, the pushing, the causing a student to soil themselves while they're trying to use the urinal? That would be my son. How many of you have children? You just talked about your daughter. How would you feel if your daughter came home and told you she was soiled while she was trying to take care of her own business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Walt Disney report.
All right. President Patinsky, Vice President Moscato, Superintendent Daly, and the Gates Chili Board of Education. We're back, and we are here to present our school updates for Walt Disney Elementary. So I have with me a team of dedicated educators behind me. They'll introduce themselves as they present, but they're going to help tell our story of our first semester this year at Walt Disney. I also have a couple of our kiddos that won GC Pride Awards that are going to stay and add some of their perspective as we present. Really what we want to talk about today is the work that we do to take the district goals and turnkey them into action in Walt Disney Elementary every day. So obviously we know, we've been talking about all year and for multiple years now, that we're committed to two things as a district. We cultivate a welcoming, affirming, and equitable environment where barriers are removed, empowering growth, learning, and success for all. We also are committed to maximizing student growth by being responsive to the academic and social emotional needs of the learning community. So at the school level, we have multiple teams of teachers that look at these goals and we say, how can we make them actionable, right? We have committees that meet over the summer and they continue to meet every month all year long. And these teams of educators have worked collaboratively to develop what we call our annual school improvement plan. This is developed in the spirit of we don't need to be bad to get better and continuous improvement. When we work with our team of educators, we have decided and moved forward with our body of work to accomplish these three tasks falls into three domains. We call these domains our building pillars. The first pillar you're going to hear about tonight is family and community engagement. The second pillar is our work around diversity, equity, and inclusion, along with restorative practices. And our third and final pillar is access to rigorous instruction. So you see the graphic of the pillars on the screens, and also you see the bubbles on the outside. These are all the stakeholders that we work with throughout the year in our various committees to make sure that we're all on the same page and moving our body of work forward as a neighborhood elementary school. So with that, I'm going to hand off to our assistant principal, Mr. Tavalaris, who's going to talk about our work so far in family and community engagement.
Thank you, Dr. Zanowski. Thank you to the board for the opportunity to talk for what me this fall was a great experience with our accomplishments that we did here. Increasing our Walt Disney parent-teacher organization participation was one of our focuses. Getting more parents involved, which we have done so far this fall and continue to look for new people to join. Our school improvement team meetings that we are holding virtually, recording those so we can increase access for all of our families, so everyone can see what's happening at those meetings, what's being discussed, and those are shared out through our newsletter and other ways that we can point parents to where to find that on the website. Increased number of school-based volunteers as our teachers are welcoming families back into the building after the pandemic and going back to those events that they were holding before. We're seeing that increased number of volunteers, families wanting to get back in and be engaged. Our social media engagement has increased this fall through all of our platforms, through just general announcements that we make, but also just daily postings of what's happening in the building. And in some of our social media platforms, comparing this last year to this year, 1,000% increase in just clicks and views of what's being posted. The launching of the new year-round online school store, access to Disney swag that way, different clothing items. The Disney Digest, our new monthly e-newsletter, again, more than 1,000 views of that when it's sent out. And then the highlight of the fall was our Disney Fall Fest with more than 500 attendees. From our PTO, our teachers in the building stepping up to go and just reach out to different community members to get pumpkins donated. Every kid had access to a pumpkin if they wanted it at the Fall Fest, and PTO didn't have to front any money for that to make that happen this year. Gates Fire, Police, the Credit Union, Public Library, the name a few that were there for the event. And we even had some community agencies reach out to us. They couldn't make the date, but they heard about it, and they're like, hey, if we can make it, we'd love to attend. So in a few months of planning this and making it happen by the end of October, we're really excited for what this will look like next school year. And from our GC Pride winners, Briella, what do you want to share? What was your favorite part of Fall Fest?
My favorite part of Fall Fest was going on the hayride, being with my friends, and getting my face painted.
Aviana, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part at the Fall Fest was that we got to go on the hayride, and I got to pick pumpkins with my little brother and my little sister.
And again, that event, just again a highlight, which I'll show some pictures of that in a second here. But our next steps for second semester, our focus really is school website redesign to really make that more engaging and accessible for families. Working with our PTO and then teachers in the building to create a winter and spring school and community event. We have some ideas for that we are working through the process of finalizing. And collaborating with our PTO for a long-range plan, strategic plan of what work we can do with the PTO and what they can provide. And some pictures from Fall Fest. You know, the back of the building was rocking. I mean, it was turn the corner and it was just people kept coming in. So it was again the excitement from that. Even our peer leaders from the high school attended to help face paint and pumpkin paint. So a really fun event. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Pika, our school counselor, to talk about DI and restorative practices.
Good afternoon. I'm Katie Pika. I'm very proud to be the school counselor for these 4 lovely students behind me and all of our Disney dragons. So I'm going to be talking about, as Mr. Tavalera said, DEI and restorative practices. The work for this really started over the summer when our CIAT team met, and CIAT stands for the School Improvement and Equity Team. And we decided to start the year off with a staff survey. We surveyed all staff about their existing knowledge, past training, and comfort level related to circles. Then we utilized those results to create common experiences among all staff members to enhance their knowledge base. The first action step was clear that we included professional development regarding the purpose and facilitation of 3 types of circles: community, restorative, and societal. This led to the common professional development in faculty meetings. In our faculty meetings, staff are divided into smaller subgroups that are led by the student support team and administrators. This allows for a common building experience to deepen our understanding and confidence in facilitating the 3 different types of circles. Along with that, we have monthly building-wide circles that classes are asked to do. The CIAT team created a bank of circle questions that are aligned to the social emotional learning standards. The Gates-Charlie Elementary Counseling Curriculum is aligned to the American School Counseling Association standards and the New York State Social Emotional Learning benchmarks. The prompts that go along with each monthly theme are developmentally appropriate and are differentiated for grade level and ability level of our student body. They go from basic questions to more complex as the grade levels move up. For example, the counseling theme of the month in October is empathy. In kindergarten, an empathy question was, "How are you feeling today?" Whereas in 5th grade, teachers were asked to use a situation that recently occurred in their classroom, and students were asked, "How would you show empathy and compassion to that classmate in the future?" Of course, at the beginning, when we talk about norms, kids were asked to not use names during that community circle. To help facilitate these classroom community circles, building pairs of staff were established. We thought only about half of our staff are classroom teachers. We wanted to give the opportunity for all staff to build relationships with students. This includes essential area teachers, academic interventionists, teaching assistants, the health office staff, and the student support team, and we can all foster a deeper connection with students. For an outcome that we hope all students have 2 safe adults within our school building. Finally, another layer to add to explain the why behind community circles for our faculty
We filmed and shared students sharing their own perspectives on community circles. This has allowed our students to have a voice to share how our work has impacted them. It was very powerful for staff to hear directly from the Walt Disney student body. We have two of them here to talk to you. Whoops. So let's see. Tatiana, what's your favorite part about circles?
Learning to help other people.
And Gabriella, what's your favorite part about circles?
I like community circles because my class is finally quiet and listening to each other.
Thank you. I want to turn it off. Okay. So our next steps. We are going to vertically align book titles for each class to use during community circles. This is evidence that our work is gaining traction throughout the school, because the idea to include children's literature within the circles was brought to the CIAT team from teachers in the building that are not on the committee. This adds another literary component and combines the counseling lessons with classroom circles and ELA and comprehension questions. Our practice is really taking root, and the rigor is increasing with each layer. The focus of the fall semester was on community circles. Now, in the second part of the year, we are going to talk about the culturally responsive and sustaining education framework and unpack that framework in an intentional and strategic way that drives all staff learning forward. So now I'm going to introduce Mr. Sigelli. Oh, I forgot, we have some pictures. So the first picture is a group from last week of first graders. They organized their own community circle and had one during recess. And just as the counselor, I have kids coming up to me all the time saying, Ms. Pika, we need to have a restorative circle. When can we have a community circle together? They're advocating on their own. The other one is a picture of Dr. Zanowski and that team of students recording the video.
Good evening. I'm Peter Sigelli. I'm the building math teacher at Walt Disney. But tonight I'm acting as the representative for the Disney Instructional Leadership Team. And I just wanted to update you on a few great things that are happening at Walt Disney regarding the one pillar of our building goals being access to rigorous instruction. If you have seatbelts in your chairs, buckle up. We got a lot of stuff shaking. So, monthly professional development around everyday mathematics. So everyday mathematics started 2 years ago. So it's a relatively new program for us still. Each month, the grade levels will meet with me. We discuss the different components of an everyday math lesson. And what this does is it helps to ensure the fidelity of the program when it's implemented because we're meeting regularly. One major focus of the work this year is about developing independent problem-solving skills with our students, and there's lots of opportunities within everyday mathematics for this. During our regular meetings, we can discuss and find and identify where those opportunities are in the program so they're really explicit for the teachers and they can bring those opportunities out for the kids. We have also developed a common protocol to discuss data. So this summer, the Walt Disney Instructional Leadership Team developed this protocol, and it's utilized whenever a instructional leader is facilitating a meeting with staff. Having the common protocol really allows us to focus on consistent, predictable, and effective ways to talk about data. Looking to the future, we hope that this protocol is going to be kind of a trickle-down effect and a model for what good discussions about data can be like in the day-to-day operations in a classroom. We're also having regular grade level instructional meetings. We call them GLIM meetings. We have to make up an acronym because it's education. And this is another math related one. So 3 times a year, each grade level is going to participate in a GLIM meeting. And this year we're analyzing data from 2 different sources. So we have unit tests that go into a program called eDoctrina. We also have iReady data. And we utilize our common data discussion protocol that I just talked about to help identify strengths and areas for improvement of our students. But most importantly, besides the data, it's really what we do with it, the actions that we take with that data, and these kinds of meetings give us a venue to talk about that and improve student outcomes. Student? Okay, excellent. So structures to support the implementation of the next generation learning standards is another thing that we accomplished this year. The content leaders meet with teachers during either morning meetings, we have partial release days, or even the best is co-teaching lessons with the teachers. It's important for teachers to revisit and talk about the standards regularly. It's teachers that know the standards inside and out, know how to teach the kids well and effectively, and that's just good practice for education. Few more items for you guys. We've also made refinements to our data collection process. So we're working towards building a universal data warehouse. Currently, data is held in many different platforms, whether it be Microsoft Excel or Word or School Tool, eDoctrina, or iReady. And what we're trying to accomplish during our summer work with the instructional leadership team is creating a spreadsheet that can be a one-stop shopping place for all this data to come together. And what we're talking about there is making it easier to identify patterns or maybe isolated difficulties that students might be having. Rather than spending our time pulling data from multiple resources, we can spend our time discussing how we're going to plan for students to improve. We've also been working to strengthen student and family engagement with iReady. Engaged students learn better. I'll pause for emphasis there. One way that we are addressing this is by working with students to create goals around passing iReady lessons. And in order to bring the whole school together for a common goal and a community goal, we want them to work towards something like a reward. So I have a few dragons here, so I'm not going to let you know what that reward is, but there's going to be something coming for you guys with your hard work with iReady, okay? As for the families, iReady is a regular topic during our Disney Digest, and we want families to understand the program so they can discuss it with their children and value the learning that comes from it. Finally, this is a really cool project, a collaboration between art and library. The art and library teachers at Disney are collaborating on a special project for our 3rd and 4th graders. We've arranged for a local author named Leslie Youngblood to come and teach our students how to write a graphic novel. In library, the students are going to research, format, and draft their own graphic novel. In art, they will illustrate the graphic novel, and then the classroom teacher is going to help bring it all together. It's sure to be that kind of project that kids are going to remember for like a really long time, and it's also going to be a model for standards integration moving forward. Thank you.
All right, everybody, then with that, I'll take any questions the board may have.
Questions? The board has no questions this evening.
Well,
Well done.
Well done, everybody.
Yep.
Great job.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to finance and facility and audit update. Dr. Bowen.
You gotta fix that.
We'll get a new one in the new Professional Learning Center. Good evening, President Potensky, Vice President Moscato, distinguished Board of Education, and Superintendent Daly. I'm here to give a Finance Facility and Audit Committee update. The Finance Facility and Audit Committee meeting was on November 21st. So we talked in terms of audit about the upcoming internal audit, noting that Freed Matzik, our internal auditor, would have a report to the committee in January of 2023. We discussed investing, how in working with our partner 3+1, we're seeing very positive results based on our new investing strategy. We talked about FEMA reimbursement, noting that the first application had been submitted for the FEMA reimbursement we got during the COVID months, the initial COVID months, and that the second application is being processed currently. We talked about school nutrition, noting that the state is coming on site to do a review of our programming. We talked about capital project planning, noting that we're looking long-term at our debt service schedule, when debt will drop off, and in addition to our capital reserve funding. We did talk briefly about a proposition for the May vote that we'll talk about at a later date in order to create another capital reserve as part of our planning for future capital work. We talked about the $68 million project, how we're on track to close phase 1.5, which included the Performing Arts Center, the PLC, the parking lot. We talked about how we're on track to close out those items by the end of December. We talked about the upcoming $45 million project. We're currently in the design phase. We did talk about how inflation could become a factor when we start to bid this work. And so if it does become a factor, we're working on creating a plan on how we're going to move forward if that does become a problem. We talked about the signboard on 490. We continue to investigate this. I know Mr. Johnson brought it up as a topic of conversation to the board. The only issue there would be many issues in terms of a signboard on 490, and we are working through those things, but it's looking like it's probably going to be prohibitive to put a signboard on 490 simply based on regulations and requirements that we would have to comply with. We talked about security cameras. We discussed the fact that we're currently focusing primarily on the exterior cameras. As you know, we're undergoing a camera project to replace all the antiquated cameras in the district. We are currently replacing all the exterior cameras first, in addition to addressing any blind spots that we currently have, because there are blind spots in our buildings, and so we're getting cameras into those spaces before we replace the other internal cameras. Some of those have already occurred. We talked about general building security upgrades. We have the Safety and Security Task Force now, who's been doing a great job. It's a subcommittee of the Safety and Security Committee. It's called the Safety and Security Task Force, who's been doing a great job of reviewing not only our policies and procedures, but our hard measures as well. And so we talked a little bit about some of the things that we've been doing to address some of our ongoing security needs. We talked about how we're going to be having the FBI come in to do a training with that Safety and Security Task Force, as well as cabinet members have been invited. Erica Despard, our SRO through the town of Gates, was able to contact an FBI field agent in Buffalo, who's our local field agent, and they're going to come out and do a training for that group, which is wonderful. We're really excited to have them come in January. That was the entirety of our meeting. Any questions?
Questions? No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a great
you.
evening.
Moving on to ad hoc update.
Yes, the ad hoc committee met and discussed our book that we are reading as the school board committee or the school board, and we reviewed chapters 1 through 3 this evening. And then we also discussed the overlap of some of the committees being redundant and looking closer at that to make sure that we are utilizing our time more effectively. And then finally, we looked at updating the handbook, and we have a list of suggestions in that area, in addition to the documents that we store. Mr. Moscato was able to go through everything and clean things up in that area, and that is my summary. Anything you want to add? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on. Motion to approve the consensus agenda. Motion, please. Ms. Unson? Ms. Coffey, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion to approve consensus items C through G. Motion, please. Mr. Bailey, Ms. Kais, questions or comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Ms. Perrott.
Good evening, President Potensky, Vice President Moscato, Superintendent Daly, members of the Board of Education, and esteemed guests and colleagues in the room. This evening, we have 2 retirements to acknowledge. We'll start with elementary teacher by the name of Anne Marie Brower, who happens to be a teacher at Disney. She will be retiring at the end of the school year after 20 years with the district. We wish her the best and hope that she has a wonderful retirement. And then we have an administrative retirement that the board just acted to accept. Janine Bizon, who is assistant principal at Neil Armstrong, will be retiring at the end of the school year as well, with 25 years of service to the district, starting as a teacher, working intimately with literacy for our youngest learners, and then moving into administration as a TOSA and then as an assistant principal. And she certainly has made a difference in the lives of our students, and we thank her for her service as well and wish her the best. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, superintendent comments.
Well, you know, we've talked recently about how are we going to develop future educators. So a new club has been formed at the high school, giving students the opportunity to explore a career path in education, called the Future Educators Club. And it shows students behind the scenes of education and allows them to explore how lessons they receive as students come to be as teachers. Members of the FEC attend a seminar where they work on important skills like how to interact with colleagues, solve problems, and manage their work. They also work on a task related to shadowing a teacher. Then the following week, students are immersed in a shadowing opportunity with a teacher who matches their content area of interest. There, they can learn more about the profession and even help facilitate some activities in the classroom. Being paired with a teacher in this capacity allows our students to ask questions that they may not otherwise have thought of or felt comfortable asking during a typical day in a classroom. Right now, the club is made up of 7 students shadowing 7 teachers at the high school and middle school. As the program develops and grows, the district hopes to extend opportunities for students interested in elementary education to shadow teachers in grades UPK through 5. In addition, the district is exploring ways for students to be able to use this experience to earn work-based learning credit towards graduation. Also, it's that time of year where we're seeking out budget ambassadors. We recognize the importance of voter input in the development of budget process. In an effort to gain more valuable feedback, the district is once again holding our Budget Ambassador Program for the 23-24 school year budget. Ambassadors will review the preliminary 23-24 budget as developed by the administration within parameters established by our Board of Ed and recommended to the BOE any modifications they'd like to see. The recommendations, while highly valued, are advisory rather than binding, and the board develops a proposed budget that will be presented to the community at large. Ambassadors will commit to serve on a committee which meets 3 2.5-hour sessions in the evening with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for business on Wednesday, February 15th, Thursday, March 16th, and if needed, Thursday, April 6th at 6 p.m. No experience is necessary, but ambassadors must be residents of our district. A maximum of 15 ambassadors will be accepted into the program on a first-come, first-served basis. To apply to participate in the program, complete the form at gatechile.org/budgetambassador by Friday, January 13th, 2023 at 5 p.m. It's a great time of year. December is always fun because it's concert season. And if you love great music, this is your time of year. We have concerts throughout this month at our new GC PAC. Last night I was blown away by the high school concert band and our symphonic orchestra. There are concerts on the following dates open to our community free of charge. December 7th, the Paul Road Winter Band and Chorus at 7 p.m. December 13th, the middle school grades 6 through 8 Winter Chorus Concert at 7 p.m. December 14th, the world-renowned Walt Disney Winter Band and Chorus Concert is at 7 p.m. And on December 15th, the middle school grade 7-8 band concert at 7 p.m. We're very excited to announce one of our children here at the high school, a freshman, Daryl, received a Do the Right Thing award from Rochester during a ceremony at the Public Safety Building in downtown Rochester last Thursday. He was nominated by both his coach and his school counselor for being a hero in the face of great adversity. When a fire broke out at his home in the middle of the night, Daryl jumped into action, alerting his family. Thanks to his quick thinking, everyone made it out safely. We're proud of Daryl, as I'm sure all of you are. And now, a bittersweet moment. This will be Mrs. Hinchin's last meeting as a board member. Her dedication and pride in being a Spartan will be hard to replace. Her experience as an educator brought valuable insight to the many issues we have faced as a district during her tenure. Her positive outlook and student-first mentality helped GC incrementally improve in nearly all aspects. Thank you for all that you have done, and enjoy your time traveling and seeing your daughter compete at the D1 level. Try not to get too suntan while we're here in winter. Thank you, Ms. Hinchins. And tonight, we'll also announce that the board interviewed several candidates that completed the application process and have chosen Mrs. Katie Davis, who's in the audience, to serve for the rest of the school year. Mrs. Davis has been very active in the district. She's an alumnus of Gates Chile and has lived in the district for 30 years. She and her husband have 2 daughters that are students in our district, and she has served on our district improvement team. She's been vice president and president of the Paul Road School and Family Association, served on the superintendent search committee that, based on some input, is either a success or failure, is the recipient of the inaugural GC Pride Award, and a member of our transportation committee. When we were reopening the school, she served on our transportation committee to come back from COVID and helped us plan doing that. Mrs. Davis will be sworn in at our December 20th Board of Ed meeting, so welcome. You got some big shoes to fill, but we know you'll do great, and we appreciate you becoming part of our board. So that is my report, sir, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, motion to adjourn. Mr. Bailey and Mr. Long, any questions or comments on that? No? We are adjourned.